Annakay Harvey dreams of helping those who are most vulnerable among us to realize and live within their purpose. With a vision for future generations and a passion for entrepreneurship, today she takes us on that journey. Annakay, come make we talk. All right, guys, so I'm here with Annakay. Annakay, thank you so much for agreeing to hop on and have this conversation with me. Like I was saying, I have been secretly just kind of cheering you on along the way. And so it's a pleasure to finally be in a position where we can have the conversation and I can low-key get to fasten your business, but more on a more formal note, just see what that, that consistency and that, determination is rooted in.
Yeah.
So we can get started. Just take me back to childhood. Like, what was childhood like for you?
Yeah.
What were some of your family structure? What were some things that you'd have noticed growing up? And even what were you like in school?
Yeah. Okay. So I grew up with my mom and my stepdad from a very early age. When I was 2, I never lived with my biological dad per se. We never had really much of a relationship either. But I remember growing up with my sister. At the time, there were 2 of us, and coming from school, I started school very early. So coming from school and teaching the stones underneath the house, beating them like they were. Yes, so you would repeat and people learn at school that day.
Yeah.
Those stones that they were kids and beating them when they can't answer. Yeah. So I realized that in itself contributed to me being able to recall things very easily, remember things. So it contributed to me having a very, very good memory from a very early age.
Right.
Now in school I was really, really smart in school, like really good. I started until all the way through. I was a great student. All my teachers loved me. I gave no trouble. I was
You're a perfect student. Get straight in, no trouble.
No, not perfect student, but I was good. I was good academically.
Yeah.
I was never good in sports and that kind of thing, even though I thought I was. Yo, listen, you couldn't tell me
I give the illusion that I'm a fit person.
Exactly.
But I can't run to save my life. No.
Listen. I thought I was good in everything in school, but I wasn't. It was just the confidence I had that I could do anything I wanted to do. I didn't grow up in a family that had much materially. We struggled a whole lot. But I was determined from a very early age. I don't know where it came from, but I had this vision of myself being better, wanting to do better, and providing that for the rest of my family and the next generation that would come, through whether myself or my sisters or whatever, doesn't matter. I had that determination for a very, very long time. Now, the church played a very, very, very significant role in my life.
Really?
My stepdad introduced us to going to church, and every week, whether or not we wanted to, we had to go to church. And never mind, because when you live in a small community and there are persons who are better off than you, I always wanted to be around those people, to see what life was like, also of what I had. Sometimes there was no food to eat at my house, and just by going to church, I would have a meal. So I enjoyed, my friends were there too. I enjoyed the company being away from the misery in my house, and just being, just being in a place where I felt like I mattered. At home, the situation or the conversations were always arguing. Why are you here? You shouldn't have been born. That kind of negativity. Yeah, I had a lot of that in my household growing up. And
what were your parents like? What did they do for work? What was that structure like?
Okay, so my mom did domestic work most of the times, and my stepfather was a farmer, and he was,
Okay.
for me, he was an excellent role model of what hard
Wow.
work is. Always wanting to provide for his family. That was something that I took from him. I have no regrets, I can say, at all, having him in my life. Just by introducing me to the power of going to church, and how that in itself helped develop my leadership skills. Because in church we had children's day, youth day, and
VBS.
I was always planning the programs. I was always at the forefront.
Wow.
I would preach in church sometimes on Children's Day. I would write my own sermons too. I would plan the whole program for the whole day. Everybody was coordinating.
You see how much time you practice from them school, man, to get the sermon right. When to cue in, amen.
Exactly.
And praise the Lord.
Yeah,
Okay.
but those little things that I was doing at the time, I didn't know, but it was helping me to develop my leadership skills. It did, because all of those carried over into school, and in school
That's a good segue. So for school, in particular, what would you say would have been like your persona? Like, everybody has a place in school. Were you that mostly like a kid who was friends with everybody and was super extroverted, or was just in a corner doing a little thing?
I've always been very introverted in school, especially in high school. I didn't have a lot of friends in high school, mostly because when I started, you know how GSAT is. It's person from different schools, they go to different high schools. So I was the only one from my school who went to that high school that I was at. High school. Yes, I was the only one from my group that went to that high school. So I was, everybody came with their friends already, so they had their cliques, and it was hard for me to fit in. It was so hard for me to fit in. I can tell you, in grade 8, oh my gosh, I I joined a group. I was desperately trying to fit in. I used to wear glasses, and I stopped because it didn't look cool.
So never mind that I can't see.
Yeah, I can't see. I took my glasses off.
Excuse me.
Yes, and when I was going home, I put them back on.
So you read the board, or you read your notes, so you go to
that in grade 8, I fell off really, really bad. I was still doing well academically, but not as well as I could have.
Yeah.
And that was because I was trying so hard to fit in with everybody else, and I joined the wrong group. I became a problematic child in school, and I never was. It came on my school report, and everybody was shocked when they saw my teacher write that I had no respect for
influence.
Authority. That I had no respect for authority. Like, everybody was shocked, even me. But it was a phase that I went through, and But
you highlighted earlier that something that was important to you growing up was feeling as though you mattered. Yes. And so if you are now in a social setting in grade 8, you found a clique that you believe made you feel like you mattered, or they wanted to be around, then that was the ultimate. So whatever that would have sacrificed, you would have been willing to do it.
Yep. And I did. It cost me my math grades for the rest of high school, because I fell off on math for the rest of high school.
Wow.
But I was able to learn from the experience, and I got back into myself, and I got back on track after grade 8. And I became again the student I was, very introverted, and getting the grades and getting the teachers' favors, because I liked that, because I never got it anywhere else.
How hard was it to scale that down? Because here you were, even if you were an introvert going in, like, you would have adapted however you needed to, which you did, to get to that point where, okay, you have now a bunch of friends, but that's the peak. The humbling moment of retreating back into yourself, like, how hard was that process? Was it just a matter of, okay, next school year, not a part of none of them people here, just like put my head down in a book, or like, how intentional did you have to be in that process?
It wasn't hard, because the persons that I was around, they weren't really my friends. So I didn't even have to move away from them. They moved away from me. Yes, that's what happened. And I've always said that God has saved me so many times in so many ways, because if I had continued down that path, I probably would have been in a total different path today. Totally. But I keep saying that people come in your life for a reason and for a season. Some come just to teach you a lesson and then they leave. I learned my lesson that way. And I can tell you it never happened again after that. Never. Through my whole university life, never happened again.
What did you study in university? Well, let's backtrack a little bit when it was time to select. So now it's time to enter into university.
Listen,
what was that selection process like? And then talk about okay, university life. What did that look like? Because you don't have nobody to kind of hold the reins on you. So what was the selection process like when it's time to?
Listen to me. I'm gonna backtrack a little bit, and go back into my family life.
Yeah.
Because when I started high school, I no longer lived with my parents. I was now living with persons who people deemed to be strangers to me. And I met them when I was in grade 7 because I had a project to do, and I was told to go to the health clinic to get it was a science project, and we had to get condoms, contraceptives to put in a folder, the project right there. And so I went to the clinic and I met the person who was in charge of the youth center. A nice gentleman by the name of Don Campbell. And from that day on, we became inseparable. He became the father to me.
Wow.
And so he took me in as his own child. Him and his wife, they took me as their own child. And I lived with them for my entire high school years.
So hold on a minute. So what was that conversation like between your mom and your stepdad and then the director of the youth center?
There was no conversation. There was no conversation. Absolutely none. And it's sad to say,
wow,
but it was almost as if just go. One less child to deal with, just go.
Wow.
Yeah. Nobody asked. They only knew where I was. That's it. They knew where I was. Nobody asked, are you coming back home? Are we ever going to see you again? Nobody asked questions. Nobody. That was it.
What about your sister?
My sisters and I, we maintained a good relationship for most of the time. Until I finished high school, we were no longer in touch for a short time period again.
Wow.
But if those persons were not in my life at that time, I would not have been able to even probably finish high school.
Wow.
I probably had a child, a teenager, or probably several children, a teenager. I would have never been able to go to university either. I can tell you that much. Now, going back to university and how I selected my program, when I was in sixth form, upper sixth, I remember my form teacher, the homeroom teacher, coming in. Teachers were on strike that time, and she came in the classroom and everybody was like, well, miss, are we having class today? And she was like, well, teachers are on strike, we want more money. And I said to her,
as they should, yeah.
I said to her, miss, I don't think teachers deserve any more money.
What?
That's what I said. And she looked at me and she said, why do you think that? And I said, well, every time we're in class, we teach ourselves anyways. They come out with a book and they just
say you do the work for them.
Exactly. I can do myself. So why do I need more money? And she looked at me and she just smiled and she said, would you ever be a teacher? I said, me? Never. Are you crazy? I said, me? I would never, ever be a teacher. And she didn't even say anything to me about it. After that was around the last, the second term in high school, Easter term. So we were supposed to select which school we're going, what we're gonna do. And I wanted to do economics at UWI. Now, I applied, of course, and I got into UWI. when it was time to pay the fees, I couldn't pay them.
Feed turn up.
No,
Yeah.
I couldn't afford it. I couldn't afford it at all. Now remember, I told you that I don't live with my family, my family. No, I live with person who now became my adopted family. Now we couldn't afford for me to go to Kingston at all because it costs not just
money for dorm,
all of that kind of stuff. So couldn't afford it. So talking to my guidance counselor, he says, "Well, go to Michael." No, I'm like teachers college.
Oh
No. So I went back home and we talked about it, and they said, "Well, I think you should do education. However, go to NCU." It's like everything was going wrong. All the people I went to school with again were going to a different school.
Wow.
And I'm the only one who was going to another school. Again.
So here you are in this pattern of like isolation.
Exactly. So I didn't want to, like I said, I didn't want to do education, but I ended up doing it because it was what was available to me. Not knowing that this was supposed to be the stone that would lead me in my path to my purpose.
It's usually the thing that we resist the most. Like if when you find your mind hell bent on not doing something,
Yes.
you can't even justify, you don't even care to justify why. Like you just know I'm not doing it.
I tell you, listen, no man.
Did you ever see that teacher afterwards so that she knows that you went to teacher school?
Nah. She became a lawyer. She went to the law afterwards.
Well, that could have probably been the conversation that made her be like, what the hell am I doing with my life? Let me do something else.
Probably. I'm telling you. But I went to NCU and I did education and I did a double major
Nice.
and business because I wanted to do, I wanted to go into the business field. So they didn't offer economics as a major. So I went to this education and just general business. So if I wanted to go and be an assistant or a bank manager, I could do that.
You had the
qualification to do so. Right. Yeah. But after that, I I had this interesting time in my life because I finished university one semester early. Because NC doesn't require you to do sixth form, but I had sixth form qualifications already. So
you got some credits.
Yeah, took a lot of my courses. So I had to wait for everybody else to finish to graduate with them. Yeah. So during this time, it was a very low point in my life. It was one of the lowest points in my life when my adopted family, they were moving away, and I had to go with them. Because
they were leaving Jamaica or moving somewhere else?
They were leaving Jamaica. So now I was left on my own. And I had no idea what was going to happen. I had no idea where I was going to go or what I was going to do at all. Like zero. I ended up staying with a family member of theirs. I didn't know any of them. I didn't know her. I didn't know her husband. I didn't know them. But they were in the same area that that we were living, right? I ended up staying with them, and during that time, both of them, the husband and the wife, one day I was, one weekend I was there and they were going out. And so they said to me, well, if we're not here, you can't stay in the house. So, yeah, as if I was gonna, take their stuff and run away. Yeah, so you can't stay in the house, and they made me sit outside on the pavement when they left.
You're too lying.
No, I'm not lying. That at this point I felt homeless.
Wow.
And I was actually homeless at that point. I couldn't be in the house if they were not there. It was like that. Luckily, at that time, I had some people in my life who cared about me enough to help me out. And so one weekend, because I was still going to church, one weekend I was going to church with them, and of course I was outside sitting down because nobody was in the house. And they drove by, picked me up, and asked me why I was outside. So I explained to them, well, this is the arrangement. I can't be in the house if nobody's there.
Wow.
Yeah. And I felt tears rolling down from my eyes.
Of course.
Because I've never thought that would happen to me. I've never been that.
And sometimes you're going through stuff and you don't really take time to process it.
Right.
And it's not until you have to share it to somebody or say it out loud that you really realize that this is like some messed up stuff.
Yep. And I've never shared that with anybody until now. I've never shared that with anybody.
Wow.
The only persons who knew were those who were there when I was experiencing it. I've never shared that with anybody. Wow. I was actually very homeless. And they I was in the car, we were going to church, and they said to me, well, do you want to come live with us? Against my better judgment, because of how I felt, during that time, I agreed, and I moved to live with them for a short time period. Again, it wasn't the best situation, it wasn't the most comfortable, but it was better than, where I was sitting outside whenever there was nobody there.
Yeah. So in terms of like, I'm assuming, and you can come here, correct me if I'm wrong, that okay, if they're going to the market, if they're going out as a couple, if they're doing whatever, then you'd have been outside quite a bit of time. What happened like when rain fall?
There's a garage there that has a grill on it. You just stand right there, so the rain does.
You mean under the
little awning right there? Yeah, you just stand right there. That's it. Yeah.
What would go through your mind? Like, here you are, right now you're coming into yourself. You would have already had such a sense of independence growing up that muscle would have been over-exercised more than the average person that age.
Right.
Like, in those moments, what would go through your mind?
All I remember was just crying all the time. I was just crying all the time, and because I had no clue what to do, and I was just cussing God. I cussed him every day. I asked, what did I do to deserve this? What did I do? But what I realized, and it's still looking back, I can say this: every event has the potential for purpose and destiny. Mm-hmm. Because I can tell you that there's nobody on the face of this earth that's going to do that to me again. That will never happen to me again. I'll make sure of that. Mm-hmm. Every event that comes in your life and that happens to you, there is a purpose, there's a lesson in it. Mm-hmm. Lesson in it. And that was just vanity. That's why I look at it. It was just people worshiping material things.
Wow.
That's why I look at it.
Were you keeping in touch with the family that had migrated?
Yes.
Were they aware that this was happening?
At that time, no. Like I said, I didn't share it with anybody. They wouldn't know. I didn't tell them about that. I was upset. I was angry at them. I had a lot of rage at that time. I had so much rage towards everybody at that time.
Wow.
Especially them. And whenever they called to call me, I probably wouldn't even answer sometimes. Wow. Because I never wanted to speak with them, because I felt like they left me out in the cold, by myself, to fend for myself with nothing to do so. Mm-hmm.
And then in their mind, they're like, oh, but you're fine, like, over by so and so.
Yeah.
You should be all right.
Yeah.
Wow. So here you are now, like, you're waiting for a semester before you can graduate. Mm-hmm. You're right now essentially like just fending for yourself in terms of, okay, what am I to know? Like, where do I live? How do I get my bearings together? Like, what? So you moved in against your better judgment with someone and stayed with them for a short time. What was your next move after that?
Luckily, NCU has a student program. So I got a job as a customer service to call students to get them to come into school to register. Right. So I did that for around 3 months. So I was able to take care of myself a little better during that time. So I was still doing job applications every now and again, whenever they come up. And I got a job in Montego Bay. So at a call center. So I moved to Montego Bay it doesn't matter. I just get up and I just move. I just went. And
Yeah, you don't have nothing holding you back. Right?
Nowhere.
Yeah.
Nothing to hold me down. So I went to Montego Bay to live at that time, and I worked with that job for 6 months before I got into teaching. This was my first teaching job, and that was, for me, it was the best thing that could ever happen to me, because now I get to kind of use my degree and make, yes, things are going now, I am gonna make some money, and and buy a house and get a car, and I had so many
plans.
I had so many plans. I can tell you that I had so many plans. But my first year of teaching, for me it was a great experience. It was wonderful. I had the best students. I also had this is where I discovered my purpose. My first year of teaching, I was introduced to what they call the Junior Achievement Entrepreneurship Program for high schools.
Yeah.
And I took it on as an extracurricular activity for business students. And it wasn't just for them, but it was for me.
Yeah, you have to flex the muscle, because
trust me, I discovered my passion for entrepreneurship. I discovered my passion for having an impact on the lives of young people. And for me, that was the most powerful thing ever. When I have parents calling me at midnight asking me where their kids are, I mean, I'm at home in my bed, and the parents are calling me, it shows how much trust they had in me. And the good thing is, like, if I call the child, they'll answer. Sometimes I didn't want to go home because of whatever was happening there, and they would trust me enough to tell me that, Miss, I don't want to go home because I'm scared of this and I'm scared of that. And I'll call the parents and they'll go pick them up, just to make them be safe. But for me, it was the impact that I had. Students coming in the morning, they don't have breakfast, they don't have lunch. And knowing that that's how I grew up, I was always
more
willing to help. Yes, I was always willing to help. I started the breakfast program through the Entrepreneurship Club with them, and that I had no idea that there were so many kids coming who had no breakfast, none at all. And just seeing how they were able to grasp the content, they were able to achieve so much. The exposure they got. I had kids coming to Canada out of that program, who've never been to Canada before. Yeah. I've had sometimes just do field trips to get out of the area, so they could experience other places to see what life was like. And that did so much for them. I'm telling you, I never knew.
And the gratification would have done a lot for you too.
Yeah. When they left school and they were calling me and telling me, thank you for the experience. Thank you for doing this for me. Thank you for being there. That's when I realized the power that it gave me and what impact I had on their lives at that time. And trust me, that's how I know that I was ordained to be at that spot. Going through all those struggles I had through my childhood, through my teenage years, through university, all those things I've been through was for a purpose. For me to be able to teach others, and help others going through the same thing. Because I can tell you, people who have never experienced that, they probably wouldn't be able to relate to other people going through that. They wouldn't be able to. So
they're like, it's kind of like studying theory and then have the practical. Like, there's no amount of theory that you can get that explains some things. Like, there's certain things you just have to live it.
Exactly.
You can empathize, you can show compassion, but it's not the same. So here you are now as a teacher. You have all of this impact, but you're still not doing anything for yourself.
Right.
Like, you're reigniting that. But you say, all right, well, I really do want to be an entrepreneur. Like, what was the process like taking that leap for you? Like, where did you start off? What was that turning point where you're like, okay, I need to start, no.
During that time, I never started to be an entrepreneur per se. what I recognized about myself was that I was able to identify lots of opportunities for me to be an entrepreneur. I think at the time I was coming into myself. I was discovering who I was as an individual, but I had nobody to help me to do that. And that was where the problem came in. So I was teaching these kids who were like 4 years younger than me. I had a lot of senior people around me in an environment that was very, very toxic. And I had to be dealing with all of that on my own. I didn't do a very good job, I can say.
Define not doing a very good job. What did that look like?
I allowed what was happening in my environment to impact my feelings towards what I was doing. Because I remember stopping completely doing the activities, the clubs for the kids. I stopped completely because I felt like I was a victim. Well, I played victim because those who were in my environment started to, have all this hate towards me, all this negativity towards me, like I'm better than. And all I was doing was just what I thought.
You're staying in your lane. You're doing your own thing.
Doing your own thing, not bothering anybody. Yeah. But you have unscrupulous people who haven't lived their destiny, and they don't want to see you live yours either. So when you are there and you are anointed and you're doing your thing, the devil will always show up somewhere, somehow, to somebody. And these were right there every time. And it got so bad for me. It was so heavy for me to bear that I felt like I gave up.
Wow.
I felt like I gave up. But when you're ordained for something, you don't have a choice about giving up. God will always reignite that fire in you. And so I began to write books. That was my first entrepreneurship venture, my real entrepreneurship venture. I wrote 3 books in one summer. For entrepreneurship in the Caribbean, for CXC, for CSEC students, CAPE students as well. I wrote business education textbooks. I did the SBA components as samples for all of them. And that was my first real entrepreneurship venture. I did it through Amazon actually. It's still there. So if you want to go purchase, you can do that.
I'll link below for persons who know somebody who's in CSEC.
Yes.
It's very helpful.
Yes. So that was my first real entrepreneurship venture, and I felt so proud of myself doing that. Wow. I took one summer. I just sat down and I went through. I did all my activities. I got my covers designed. I think at that time,
that takes like an immense amount of energy, focus, discipline.
Yes. Let me tell you what I realized through all my years up until that point was that I use negative energy as my fuel all the time. So whenever anything was happening in my life, no matter what it was, what area of my life, I always use the negative energy and fuel my passion to get things done. That's how I focus. That's how I refocus.
So I find that there's so many people, myself included, that if I say for example, I'm supposed to exercise every day.
Right.
So am I happy? Oh, I can do 5 minutes. I can do 10 minutes. I'm not really that bad.
Yeah.
If I'm ever upset, an hour and a half straight. No stopping. But is that more of a defense mechanism? Why is it that it's so much easier to channel that negative energy? But when it's positive, it's laissez-faire. It's this can wait. It's not as timely to get that done.
What I realized for myself is that when I have, at that time, because now it's different, I don't use negative energy anymore to fuel me. But what I realized is that since I discovered my actual purpose, that's 1. 2, I'm able to forgive my past and let go. When you're able to let go of negative energy, the pure positive energy comes into play. When it's pure and there's nothing hindering it, it fuels you just the same. So what I realized that all of us have a lot of baggage carrying around, and hence it weighs on the positive energy just the same.
And so, it's so much so that when you get the little positive energy, your mind is like, okay, well, what do I do with this? What do I do with this? So you're forced to kind of just mellow out. So until you reset that internal thermostat to be like, okay, I don't want to wait until I'm in a rut. I don't want to wait until I feel so sucky for me to be in a position where I'm thriving. That you intentionally or even unintentionally like crave that positive energy a lot more. So that's very true.
Pure. Yes, it has to be that pure positive energy. I was able to forgive the people who I felt like wronged me. My dad, my adopted parents, who I think left me out in the cold. Anybody who has hurt me in my past, when I was able to forgive and let go, all that negative energy disappeared. And I can tell you, for a few minutes, I didn't know what to do with myself. I'm like, what am I going to do now? I no longer had that fuel. But like you said, you reset that internal thermostat. And I'm like, oh, okay, here it is. And God's like, well, go now. Let's go, girl. And let's go. And I went. And I'm telling you, that pure positive energy, it is so much better, such a bigger drive than having all that negative baggage carrying around. The weight is lighter. A lot lighter.
So you are a published author. And, in my mind, like, once one book published and thing like resignation letter.
That's right. That's what came next.
Oh, okay. Then we're on the same page because you can't talk to me.
Can't talk to me.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Well, I can tell you that I was trying to get the book because it was the only one of its kind in Jamaica at the time. The subject was new as well. Entrepreneurship was a new subject, and no text existed. That's why I created it.
Wow.
I was trying to get that book to be established by the ministry to be the textbook for entrepreneurship. But those same powers that be at that time, my goodness, man, it's like I can't get a break.
You don't gotta say nothing about that.
Can't get a break.
Can't.
But I found other avenues to get it done, and I reached out to different schools who were offering the subject. And I got really good feedback. I got really good support as well.
Wow.
They bought the book from Amazon, and connected to that same school that I was at. They bought a whole bunch of the books too. So thank you to God. That's how God uses. They say, the Lord my shepherd I shall not want. He makes me lie in green pastures.
That's a real thing.
And He prepares a table
a real
for your enemies. That's it right there.
That's a real thing.
Right there. Yes.
You better. Well, would I say you better show off, but you still have to be like a little bit.
Little bit. Yeah. So I've seen God use people who have come into my life to try to destroy what I want to do and turn it into something positive, turn it into different lessons. And I carry that with me all the time. So when things are going wrong and I see people trying to hinder me, I don't fret. I don't worry anymore because I know it is going to work out for my good in the end anyways. So everybody can say whatever they want to say, do whatever they want to do. I know that it's going to work out for my good already.
Anyway, like you can't really do nothing about this right now.
It's already done. That's how I look at it. It's already done.
So we touched on the beginning and what would have kind of like birthed entrepreneurship for you. Like, what does entrepreneurship look like for you right now? How many years would have passed between then and now? And what does entrepreneurship look like for you right now?
3 years have passed. I resigned from my job. I migrated to Canada, and that's 3 years ago.
Wow.
And interestingly, when I came here, the first thing I wanted to do was to start my business. I didn't know what kind of business it was going to be, but I know I was going to do something because the seed is there, it's planted. I don't know what tree is going to grow, what fruit it will bear, but I know the seed.
You're going to water it, and fertilize and stuff.
I'm telling you, I met the most wonderful people. The first of people I met when I came here, they were all entrepreneurs, all of them. And they were looking for businesses to invest in. I just met them. I had no idea, you know, like I said, my steps are ordered. Everything is just falling into place, the right people come in at the right time. And so I didn't know what I wanted to do. You know, they said, think about it. And, you know, when you're ready, you come back with it. It took me a year and a half, you know, to come up with what I wanted to do. And so my business now is creating vegan hair care products. In the long run, it won't be just hair care, but for right now, it's vegan hair care products. And that was birthed out of my own experience as well, not being able to find, because I have very sensitive scalp. So I can't use certain products. And so even plus I say they're organic, many of them are not.
Listen, I saw something just this morning about like how loosely you can use like hypoallergenic, organic.
Yes, right. So I was making my own products actually in my kitchen to do my own hair. And so my business was birthed from that. And right now the skin it has taken, because it's taking me a longer time than I thought it would have. But when I see where it is going, I see the money coming in to fund it. I'm like, it couldn't have been a better time. Nothing happens before its time. I'm telling you, because I complained a lot, and I'm like, I've been trying to get it off the ground for a long time. I want to see go. Because I'm like that. I'm like, I just see things happening. When you put in so much time and effort and energy, I want to see it happening. But I couldn't see the tangible result of what I was doing. But when I look at where it is now and what the shape it has taken on, I cannot help but be grateful for it, because it will not just another hair care product on the market. It's going to be so much more than that. We're taking a holistic approach to health, where it's not just about you putting good things in your hair, but all around how you eat, how you sleep, how you breathe, exercising. Yes, the skincare you use, everything, the holistic energy that comes from you spiritually as well, and how it contributes to you having healthy hair. Trust me, like I'm so excited.
I'll give you a story. So, like, naturally, when people are going through stressful situations, it's not uncommon for you to either gain a lot of weight or lose a lot of weight, right?
Yeah.
Recently, I was going through a very stressful time, but I did none of that. I mean, probably put on a little 5-10 pounds, but not anything that was like a noticeable difference.
Yeah.
But I started losing my hair. And growing up, for me, my hair was like, it's a key part of anybody's appearance. Like, when you start losing hair, like, you rethink life. Like, what's going on?
Yep.
And it wasn't until I went to a dermatologist and I was like, look, I feel like I'm going bald or some alopecia thing coming up. I said, well, the follicles aren't closed. You're probably just stressed.
Yeah.
And at first I was like, what are you saying to me? Maybe I need a second opinion. But then the more I looked into it, I'm like, no, like your body has to let go of it some way. You have to deal with the stress. Like, if you're not taking off the weight or you're not putting on the weight, it's gonna come out somewhere. I'm like, look, all you people out there, you could like lose an eyeball if you're not dealing with the stress, because your body has to find that way to let go of it. But I have a question on how some aspect of your childhood would show up like as an adult. So even if as a child you were moving around, so it was always more of like an unsettled environment, and you touched on, okay, your personality is one where you're constantly just you're going. How does that feeling, so let me see if I'm phrasing the question the right way. How does that feeling of unsettlement, is that a word? It's a word today. How does that show up with you now as an adult? When one, you're not in control, there are unforeseen things that will happen, especially when it comes to getting a business off the ground. The first 3 years are very, 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 very crucial.
Yeah.
How do you think that shows up now? You can talk about that professionally as an entrepreneur, and even personally too, like how that shows up in your life.
I can tell you that I have my business mentor the team I'm working with, they have supported me so much. I have been through personal development, and I had to revisit everything in my childhood. The root cause of everything, I had to revisit them, and I had to work it out. I had to go to therapy and work out all of it, go through the mental challenges of it. And I can tell you that my childhood, those issues I had, they no longer impact me onto the scale where I should be concerned about it. Right now, as an adult, as a growing adult, as an evolving person, if things happen where there are uncertainties, I don't worry. I don't fret about it, because I know that everything works out for my good, and I believe that 100%. I hold on to it. There are days I get anxious, I can tell you. I want to see things happen and I get anxious. The anxiety kicks in. But what I remember Tyler Perry always saying this: climb and maintain. When you're going through a rough patch in the air, the planes go through turbulence, there's a barrier, it breaks, it keeps going up. And it breaks that barrier, and there's calm up there. So keep going up, keep pushing until you break that barrier and you feel calm. I meditate a whole lot as well. That helps me so much. Every time I feel like I'm getting anxious or overly exhausted in anything, or things are so uncertain,
or wanting to control, like if it's a situation where instability, is something that was kind of ingrained growing up, it's quite natural to then want to control everything. You want to be in a position where, I already know 5, 6, 7 steps ahead. But if you're anxious, it's because that there's some form of uncertainty.
Right.
So if you give into that or lean into that and use meditation to bring you back to that place of calm, it's like that constant adjustment of the internal thermostat. That's like, okay, I'm equipped. I can deal with this. Everything is going to work out for me anyway. Yep. But I love that you give credence to external support, to therapy, to understanding the root cause.
Yes.
Like so many people, especially once your childhood is traumatic and you get out of it, like very few people want to revisit that. Like it's painful.
Yeah.
But to be brave enough to do that, to unpack that, to feel the same feelings all over again. Like some things where you feel like, say, oh, look, I'm no longer upset about this. You say, no, but we never remember the party. I'm extra right now. Like, it's so easy to do that. So that's a new level of maturity that many of us still have not, like, stepped up to do.
Yeah. I can tell you that revisiting for me was very painful. And it caused me to, my biological dad, I haven't spoken to him in over 20 years.
Wow.
And revisiting that made me want to go and talk to him, find him out, seek him out, and talk to him. And all I could say was, I forgive you. And the moment I did that, it's like a burden was lifted off me. I'm telling you.
Free up. Yeah.
I felt like I was walking on air when I did that. And so building that, trying to build that relationship with him and letting go of all of that, unpacking all of that, I can now remember the good times that we had when I was growing up as a child. I didn't live with him, but there were times when I had to spend time with him. And I can remember my favorite memory of him. Me and my sister, we were staying with him one weekend, and he didn't have much, but he cooked for us. I Jamaican chicken back and white rice, he ate us that, and he said, Daddy doesn't have a lot today, but one day I'll have a king's dinner for you. And I hold on very dearly to that memory because I'm still waiting for that dinner. That king's dinner. I'm still waiting for that.
Wow, I love that.
Going through therapy for me was one of the best things I could have ever done. It helped me to appreciate so much more and to take a different perspective on things that happened to me. I've always said my mom was a bad mom, but I said now I can look and say I learned in reverse what not to do if I become a mother.
Like you learn grace.
Yes.
Right? A lot of times we are in a position where From our perspective, this is what it looks like. But grace is what allows it to be like, you know what?
Yeah.
What were the tools that she had? Like,
exactly.
It doesn't discredit your feeling, because at the end of the day, you're still a child. You still had your, certain needs that needed to be met. But it allows you to be like, you know what? But I give you grace.
Yes.
And I'm able to forgive you. And I now know that, okay, in order for me to adequately parent a child, this is what I need to do. Yes. I need to be very much aware of this when it comes to me. And so that I don't pass that on to my kids. So.
Also, I look at it as she did the best she could with what she had, because they weren't equipped to be parents per se. Just like now, there are many people who have kids who don't even know what they're doing.
Listen, I have one, right? And a lot of people pat themselves on the back, as you should, if you can provide for your kids on a physical level, what you never had. So if you have, the bills are steady, if they're staying in one place and they have that stability and they feel insecure, great job.
Yeah.
But the mental acuity that's required to raise a child, look here, I don't. There are people that with 4, 5, 6 picnic. Oh, you do it? I don't have it. Okay, because so many times, like something that's my daughter, very curious, very, 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 very curious.
Yeah.
And it can be so easy when kids start asking questions. Why didn't you do that? Why didn't you? But what does that really mean? What does it say about? To shut them down. And it's not that it's out of ignorance. It's because sometimes you don't even know why. So to get to a point where, one, you give yourself grace, because it can be easy to be judgmental on yourself and to hold yourself in high regard and to feel so much guilt and shame about all the things you wish you did and didn't do. And then hold space for that and say, I really don't know in this moment. I don't know in this moment.
Yeah.
But that is where the calm comes in, and you're able to, you see that with your child, you see that in terms of how they interact in the environment, and it changes everything. But it is it's a continuous working process. It does not stop. It doesn't stop, because the moment you feel like you clear this level, something else that's more deeply rooted comes up, and you're like, when will we get a break?
It never stops. It never stops. Yeah. So I look at it like that. I just she did the best of what she had, the tools that she was given, and I am determined not to repeat that process, to break that barrier and to be better, with what I have, because now we have more knowledge of, what it means or what is required. Then you do better. And as well, I forgive. And for me, that's one of the most powerful tools that you can have is forgiveness. For anybody, no matter how hard it is or how they hurt you, and ever since I was able to do that with my mom and my dad, I've just seen the blessings just pouring out left, right, and center.
Wow.
My business, my personal life, in every way, shape, and form is just pouring out. So when things go wrong, or you're not going the way I want them to, or it's taking longer than I wanted to, I can have this calmness, this peace, knowing that it's going to work out, And
I always remind myself, whenever I feel like, just based on my periphery, right, I'm not seeing where this is making sense.
Yeah.
I always, in my back of my mind, I'm like, Shanique, your name is being called right now where you don't even have control over it. People are talking about you. People are putting you in spaces where you don't even know what you're gonna be yet. So just relax. Relax. You do everything that you need to do, and then let go.
That's right.
You can only have guilt when you know that, crap, I should have done more. I could have, I'm not quite done here. This is a short-term experience. Do that. And once you can do that, it's good from there.
There's a story told of a farmer that was planting bamboo. And he had a whole field of bamboo. And for 5 years, he went to this big empty field, water in the ground, and people look at him and laugh and like, what is he doing? It's 5 years and nothing is growing. What is he doing? He's stupid. Until one day, all those bamboo that he was watering just shoot up out of the ground, because bamboo takes 5 years to grow. And when they grow non-stop. So you might be working and don't see the results, not seeing anything happening for a very long time. Doesn't mean that nothing is happening. The root is being formed.
Especially seeing other people pass you.
Yes.
Like that, and feeling like, but I'm stagnant right here.
What am I doing? What am I not doing right? But that is it too. You can't compare yourself to people. Yeah. You are your own competition. I say I strive to be 1% better every day than I was the day before. That's 365% for the year, and I'm good with that.
Yeah.
I don't compete with anybody.
And sometimes, a lot of times when people hear that statement, 1%, it's more of like, oh, it's something dramatic, right? Yeah. So I need to get up at 4 o'clock every day. And you very well may need to, but it's a work in progress. That 1% could be, okay, you know what? Yesterday I had 2 glasses of water. Today I have 2.5.
That's right.
It's progress. And once you can be consistent with that, that's the aim of the 1%, consistency.
Right. That's right.
So I love that. Right. All right. So we're almost at a point now where your business will meet the world, be birthed to the world.
Yeah. Very soon. Very soon.
Can you give us like insight on what that timeline looks like as it stands right now?
I can't give a timeline because there are some things happening in the background which might take a little longer than, might be longer, might be shorter. I can't say 100%, so I can't give an exact timeline. I really wish I could.
Okay, no problem.
But I can't.
So on your website, does it say like, okay, coming soon, or something so that people can constantly visit? Because look, support is something that happens constantly. And as anybody in my network will tell you, look, it don't matter what it is. I'm going to tell, once I know something, I'm going to tell everybody I know, and they're going to tell everybody they know.
Yes.
So the support is coming nonetheless. I just want to know, like, okay, where do we point at when it's time to for you to receive it?
You'll be the first to know when it's But right now, we have a focus group that we work with, around 10 people. And so they do all the sampling for the products.
Nice.
They will also be a part of our ambassador program where they'll be the ones spreading the message. Our website is a work in progress right now as we speak. I just got the text on my phone. So it is. You'll be the first to know.
And outside of that, where can people find you? Like if they want to keep up with your story, your journey.
Yes.
Where can they find you?
LinkedIn.
Perfect.
I am not a social media person at all. I don't like social media. But for my business purposes, I have an Instagram page. But right now we don't do any recent posts. I've done any recent posts because we have changed a lot of what we had initially, and so working on what it will look like for when it comes out is what we're doing right now. I don't want to put anything out there yet.
Prematurely, I get it.
Prematurely.
So in the meantime, for those who want to scoop, they can scoop you out on LinkedIn.
Yes,
and just once that information is made available, we'll go there and support.
Yes.
All right, Annakay. It has been such an amazing conversation.
Well, thank you.
Thank you so much for agreeing to hop on and for telling your story, being so vulnerable. Right? Yes. That takes a lot of courage. And I know that there's someone out there who can relate to aspects of your journey. Yeah. But having seen the end result, seeing how it looks now for you, kind of hold space for that within themselves to say, you know what, I might be here right now, but I don't have to stay here.
That's right.
And that's the end goal. Just like you said, keep pushing through, break that barrier, and then find the calm. Yes. And however long you need to, like that bamboo, if it takes 5 years, just know it's coming for you.
Exactly.
So
if you don't mind, I would just like to leave.
Sure.
I would just like to leave, just a nugget that people can relate to, or always go back to whenever they need a word of encouragement. Find your why. Find your why. Your why is the most powerful thing that you can have. And when you know why you are doing what you're doing, you'll never ever want to give up. That's one. You'll never lose the drive to want to achieve that. And your why must be bigger than you. It can't just be, I want to have a big house. I want to be rich. Your why has to be bigger than yourself. It has to be that you want to do something for somebody else, impact other people's lives. So when you find your why, nothing at all can stop that drive that you have for wanting to achieve for. That's it. Yeah.
I love that. And there's nothing else to say after that. Thank you so much for hopping on.
You're welcome. It was a pleasure.
Right. Bye.
Yeah. Bye, Shanique.